Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're going to get some old school DX up in here. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition. It's been a while, but welcome back to another edition of Inside the Walls podcast. I am your host, Jim Renee, a.k.a. The Chosen One, the Adam Schefter, the Ian Rappaport, the guy that caused chaos around the industry because of facts and real sources. But of course, I'm alongside my partner in crime this edition of the episode 130, Power Rankings. Matt Patton, what's going on, my brother?
Hey, how you doing? Excited to be here and get started for the 2024 season.
Hey, it's 2024 season. I know we've been gone for a while, but I do want to say that Inside the Walls Network, which we are aligned with here Inside the Walls podcast, as you know, Inside the Walls podcast is the main show of the network. We have great content on the network. We got more content with new shows joining the Inside the Walls Network. Announcements will be coming here in a couple of weeks as we get closer to the National Arena League season. And also I have my other pet project I'm doing for my local team here in Jacksonville. That show will be within the next 2-3 weeks. We'll launch and we'll have everything Shark related on that show as well. But so far, off season's been intriguing. We finally got the finalization of the 8 teams on our last episode. We had Ducon Williams from Arena Football Statement join us to talk about the in-depths of some of these organizations and where their backgrounds are from. Now we are entering the phase where we like to call the preseason of a league. And I know a lot of people go, man, how does these leagues operate? How's the calendar? How's the schedule go? Well, right now it's January, meaning all the stuff you're doing right now is preparing you for what's ahead for the next 40 days, which is players report, training camp, and the preseason, then followed by the season. There's stuff that if you're doing stuff right now that should have been done in August, you're way behind. But again, I have all the sources I've talked to, especially here in the National Arena League. That's not an issue. Everyone's full bore, and we're getting ready for the 2024 season with 8 organizations spanning from Greensboro, North Carolina, up to Idaho to Fort Worth, Texas, home of the North Texas Red Bulls, a team that, FYI, ladies and gentlemen, Matt forgot about in his power rankings. He didn't know where the other team was, so I'm calling you out because of that. But that's what today's episode is, ladies and gentlemen. It's episode 130. This is Matt's 3rd show on this version of Inside the Walls. But before we get into the episode, Matt, your show joined the network earlier this year, the Prime Cuts of Omaha Beef podcast. And if you're listening to the show right now on Inside the Walls Network, stay tuned to later tonight on live. It's going to be live. Am I correct? Hopefully it's live on Thursday night.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Tonight, live, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 Eastern Time. We'll be interviewing returning Omaha Beef running back Jalen Singleton joining us tonight here live on the Prime Cuts of Omaha Beef podcast.
That's where to go. So you're going to have action, ladies and gentlemen, today on Inside the Walls Network and throughout the week. Especially next week, we'll have a special guest to be announced on this show for episode 131 as we start getting closer to the realm. We'll have Ricky from Omaha join the show again. We did kind of have an interview a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what's happening. Sometimes technology doesn't agree with you. It just goes like, you just recorded 30 minutes of show? Not anymore. Who cares? But anyways, you can follow us on social media at InWallsPod for the Inside the Walls podcast. You can follow us on our network at InWalls Network. And again, to the people who are associated with the InWalls Network, thank you for making Inside the Walls podcast and the network your source for indoor and National Arena League news. But we got more exciting things to go. And I know one thing, we posted our power rankings on Monday night, Eastern, like 5 o'clock Eastern, because we do this as a tradition of Inside the Walls. We like to post power rankings, way too early power rankings, and let everyone panic, get offended, or say, why do you have this team here? Why do you have this team here? Just FYI, ladies and gentlemen, just going to give you a little information. Jim, I looked at past power rankings of mine preseason. I've nailed the 4 teams that made the playoffs each and every year with my top 4 in my power poll. But this year, in the National Arena League, the top 6 make the postseason out of the 8. So if you see the 6 teams in mine, those who I think will make the playoffs. Maybe in that order, maybe not. But in my power rankings, I'm pretty dang good. I looked at it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to flex. I know my former co-host Zach, he was on the money with a lot of his picks as well. So if you look at my power rankings, remember, I just don't throw up teams because the logo looks good. I actually break down stuff, look at film, look at stats, and really look in depth into some of these organizations and actually come up with an opinion. I thought Albany was going to do it last year. I was wrong. Jacksonville, my hometown team, claimed our third title in the league. But nonetheless, you want me to put this interesting power ranking so everyone got offended about. So how we're going to do this? We have 3 people who voted in this poll, ladies and gentlemen. Myself, Matt, and we had a coach. And I'm going to tell you right now, the coach who is associated with this poll is not associated with the National Arena League. This is a coach has actually coached in multiple indoor leagues, so he knows the field. He knows a lot of these players. So he gave me his power ranking top 8 for the way too early. He will most likely be a guest host on this show later in the season when he has time. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to start with Matt, the Omaha. What a shock on his power rankings, but let's go to the Matt's power rankings. Why you have these teams in your place? Let me get this banner out of the way so you know who your whole ranking is. Matt, so your top 8 consists of, for the listeners on radio, or not, well, I wish we were on radio, but we're not, but for the listeners on podcast platform, Matt's power ranking follows from 8 to 1. Number 8 is the Oklahoma Flying Aces. Number 7, North Texas Bulls. 6 is the Colorado Spartans. 5 is the Topeka Tropics. 4 is the Idaho Horsemen. 3 is the Sioux Falls Bandits. 2 is the Carolina Cobras, and 1 is Omaha Beef. But there is a asterisk there, ladies and gentlemen. Jim messed up on the graphics, so I think 2 teams need to flip. I want to say it's Idaho and Topeka, but I'm wrong. Matt, you discuss your top 8.
Yeah, so I chose Omaha number 1. The reason I chose Omaha number 1 is pretty simple for me. I mean, other than the fact that I host the Prime Cuts of Omaha Beef podcast right here on the Inside the Walls Network.
Well, that's so biased.
The other reason is they are coming into this season being undefeated. They went 12-0 last season. They won the CIF pretty easily going away. Not meaning to say anything bad about the former CIF teams or anything like that, but I mean, it was Omaha and everybody else pretty much all season last year. But really, honestly, when I look at it, I've been accused of not watching enough arena or indoor football to know what I'm talking about other than the Omaha Beef and their league or whatever. But the fun fact about that is I paid attention last season to the NAL a little bit, and I know that Carolina is very, very good. They were in the league championship game last year, if I'm not mistaken, against your Jacksonville Sharks.
Yes.
And so honestly, for me, it's not necessarily a 1-2. It's more of like a 1A, 1B kind of thing, because we know that Carolina is going to bring back a lot of the same guys. We know that they're going to be hungry to prove that, the one remaining team from the original NAL is the team that is the one that needs to be beaten. But I know Omaha. Obviously, I talk to those guys, multiple times a week. I interview some of the players, and I know who we've got coming back and the culture of this program. And I'm just really excited that I think we're going to do great things this season in the NAL. I got Sioux City number 3 because for me, I've watched Sioux City for about the last 10, 15 years, and they're consistent. And everything I've seen through social media and people that I've talked to, they're bringing back a good majority of the team that they've had for the last 2, 3, 4 seasons, where they've been super competitive within the CIF and with the Omaha Beef over the last couple of years. Last season, the best game of the year, in my opinion, in Champions Indoor Football was that game between Omaha and Sioux City in Sioux City. Final score was 48-46, I believe. And it was just back and forth, and it was the most points Omaha gave up all season. It was great. So that's why I have them there. Idaho, I put them, actually, I think I put them at 5 in my rankings. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember specifically. I know we did this recently, whatever. I know that they won the championship for the league that they were in last year as well. So,
AWFC.
yeah, so I put them in there. And then I believe somehow you got mixed up with my North Texas pick, but that's okay. I know North Texas is going to be good because everything I've heard is they have Robert Kent, who has been around the game for a long time, played in Amarillo for a while. Very, very good. Very good. Player, and they're going to be good. And some of the guys that they've had in the past, I know, whether they're coming back or not, going to make them a good ball club. The ones that are kind of unknown are the Colorado Spartans. We don't really know much about them. We've seen a few signings that have been announced. I'm not familiar with the players that they've signed, but I know that some of the guys from the Beef have been like reposting those signings and have been commenting about, what a great signing it is and things like that. And so I'm just not familiar with those guys, but they're in the heart of Colorado, not far from Denver, not far from some of the good, the big college football programs there. They're going to get guys. They're going to get athletes. They're going to be just fine. Topeka is Topeka. I mean, last year, I believe they won one game in Champions Indoor Football. And depending on, what they do as far as, coaching staff and players, it's going to be hard for me to believe that they're going to be able to improve a lot. But we'll have to see. And then I think Oklahoma might be the biggest question mark of every team on this list because no one even expected the Oklahoma Flying Aces to come back. And now that they have, we just don't really know exactly what to expect from them. So that's kind of why I ranked the teams where I ranked them. A few of them could be, moved around a little bit, intermixed here and there. It just really kind of depends on, final rosters and those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's why it's called a way too early power ranking. People take offense like this is what we think it's going to be the actual final standings come week 14 of the regular season. But we look at you had honestly you nailed it. You have question marks about certain teams in the league. Oklahoma, which is again new team. They're in Eden, Oklahoma. By the way, people, if you're in the central part of the nation, hopefully you're staying warm this week. The whole nation's getting a nice dusting of ice. So be safe if you're listening to this. If you're driving on the road, be safe. If you're home, stay warm. But yeah, there are a lot of questions about those two teams that you mentioned. Yeah, about between North Texas and Colorado.
Yeah, and you mentioned the cold just momentarily, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a friend that lives not too far from you in Destin, Florida, who was like, yeah, it's going to be 27 here tomorrow. And I was like, bro, it's going to be -11 here. So miss me with that.
Hey, it's going to be 26 here in Jacksonville. That's cold for us. Damn
it. Well, there you go.
But let's go to my ranking. How I did my ranking is based on past experience from a lot of these players I know. For the people who are listening on the podcast platform, from number 8 to number 1. Number 8, I have Topeka. I'm not bashing Topeka right now. I just know they have the coolest helmets. And sometimes Tropics in Kansas just was perfect. And plus, I'm a fan of Semi-Pro with Will Ferrell. I really enjoy that movie. Number 7's Oklahoma. The reason why I have these two teams right here, if I did like a point standings, like if I want to make my own metric for this, these two teams would be tied for 7th, maybe tied for 8th, because there's a lot of questions there. But then again, we are still about 8 weeks away to the start of the season, so we will know as we get closer to the season. We'll start seeing these teams finalize their rosters, and you will understand what type of team they are. Number 6, like I mentioned earlier in the opening monologue of the show, my top 6 rankings have been on the money the last 3 years for teams who made the postseason in the National Arena League. So every team I mentioned here will be in the playoffs. Doesn't matter what order they finish, but I still think these are the teams that will make it. Number 6, I have Idaho. Here's the reason I like Idaho right there. Idaho and Colorado, in my opinion, are going to be similar organizations. Why? Because I love Coach Shaw in Colorado. The guy gets a lot of guys. He coached a hell of a team in San Antonio last year to best record in the league for majority of the year. Had a little nicks and bruises and injuries hit at the end of the year that stumbled San Antonio's number 1 overall seed campaign last year. But still, They were a very competitive team. I expect Coach Shaw to do well. So number 6 is Idaho. What a lot of people don't understand is, or especially a lot of people in the National Arena League don't know, especially the guys in Greensboro, Idaho is bringing back almost every single player that's played in either the Oregon Dusters and the Idaho Horsemen. All the former, almost everybody from the AWFC is now on the Idaho roster. So they're going to be a thorn in a lot of people's necks this year. I think they're going to be that team. I think they might finish as the season ends probably at 4, maybe 5, but they're going to be that team you do not want to play in the first round of the playoffs if you're one of the 4 teams in the first round of the playoffs, because they're that type of team. If they have to travel, are going to be that thorn in your neck. They were a very competitive team last year in the league they played in, and actually they kind of walked through their league like how Omaha did in the CIF last year. Number 5 have Colorado. The reason why I have Colorado at number 5 is because of Coach Shaw. What he has done in San Antonio the last 2 years, he is going to find some dudes out of nowhere, maybe in Colorado State, because that is Fort Collins. That's where the Colorado Spartans are at. But also Colorado, Wyoming area, Utah area, there's a bunch of dudes that play in smaller colleges, for instance, like Southern Utah or I think it's Northwest Colorado State. It's another university that has a lot of familiar CIF players and NAL players in the past. So he's going to find some dudes. And of course, you have Colorado right down the street. Call Dion. He may have some players he wants to, send your way. But getting to the top 4, and the reason why I have North Texas at number 4 is because Robert Kent himself, the man has been around playing indoor/arena football since Jesus walked the earth. He's been here forever. It's like a gift that keeps on giving. Robert Kent will keep North Texas in the playoff picture every game throughout the season. I expect North Texas to be one of the shockers come season in, where we're talking to probably Robert Kent during the playoffs for the semifinals or even championship game. That's the type of quarterback Robert Kent is. He is going to lead his team deeper into the playoffs. Now we get to the top 3 dogs of the NAL this year. All 3 of these teams have brought back a lot of important players. Sioux City is basically bringing back the same defense from last year. That defense was pretty good. Sioux City at one point was 5-0 last year until injuries hit them. One thing I know about Sioux City in the playoffs is like a match made in heaven. Whatever year they play, they're in. They've only missed the playoffs in their 24 years of existence 3 times. So the chances of them making the playoffs are very high. I expect Sioux City. I expect that coaching staff. I expect Sioux City to be a dominant team this year. Honestly, with the power rankings right now at number 3, I expect them to host a home playoff game. A 2, a 1, 3, or a 4. Remember, the top 4 seeds get a home playoff game. Top 2 get a bye. Number 2, I'm not going to talk about them much because you go as far as your quarterback. And last year, the best quarterback, hate to say this, people, but the best quarterback in the CIF last year wore the Omaha orange and black jersey. And of course, is his favorite Nebraska player. Am I right, Matt?
The only Nebraska player I cheer for.
But number 1, of course, is the Carolina Cobras, because Carolina, in my opinion, has brought back lethal weapons. James Summers, Kendrick Ings, Adam Smith, who should be on a UFL roster right now. Honestly, the only thing that's holding back Carolina, in my opinion, so far this year is going to be the quarterback play. Because you don't know who the quarterback is. Guy Myers got an invite to the UFL, USFL, so we'll see what see what happens. Most likely, Carolina still owns his rights, so if he goes back to Carolina, he'll play in Carolina. But those are my order of finishes. 8, 7, number 8, Topeka. Number 7, Oklahoma. Number 6, Idaho. Number 5, Colorado. Number 4, North Texas. 3, Sioux City. Number 2, Omaha. Number 1, the Carolina Cobras. Are they way too early? Top 25. And of course, we had an anonymous coach put his ranking in. This coach will be announced at a later date on the show. He's going to be our guy who breaks a lot of the ties of our rankings. He is a current active coach in the business. He is not an active coach in the National Arena League. He is in another league, but he does a lot of things for this industry. So he gave me his top 8. He got Oklahoma at number 8, number 7, North Texas, number 6, Topeka, number 5, Idaho, number 4, he said Colorado. And he told me to say this: don't count out Coach Shaw in Colorado for winning the whole thing. So number 3, he has Sioux City. Number 2, he has Omaha. And number 1, he has the Carolina Cobras. So that is his top 8 of the early power rankings. I know we're going to have people that comment on this show saying our power rankings are off. We don't know what we're talking about. But, again, I've watched a lot of film on a lot of these teams and a lot of players. It's my opinion. And, of course, Matt has his opinion. So this is just fun and games. Just want to tell you that we wanted to get an episode out for all you fans to enjoy, because starting next week, it's going to start rolling, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot of content coming. We're going to have guests, probably the commissioner of this league on pretty soon. We're going to have Ricky on the show again because he is a fan of the show. Honestly, without Ricky, Matt and the Prime Cuts and Omaha Beef podcast won't be on the Inside the Walls network. And of course, we'll get guys that have connections. We may get some Adam Smith action on here again. We might get Coach Brandon Egan on here. We're going to get Shaw on here. We're going to get everyone on here that is associated with the National Arena League, giving you up-to-date information for your teams and your league. Before we got about 9 minutes to kill, I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, what the new format of this show is going to be. Me and Zach, my former partner from the last couple years, we did 3 shows a week, like 2 hours each. It was very, very, very killer for us. It was very stressful for us. It was at times where we got to do a show, and we just couldn't stand doing a show because we weren't having fun. We were doing it to just get content out. This year, Inside the Walls podcast will be as long as an hour, but it'll be only 1 show a week. It will be on Thursday at noon, or it could be on Wednesday at noon, depending on the schedule of the games. If there's a game on Thursday night, Inside the Walls will be on a Wednesday. If there's no game on Thursday, the show will be on a Thursday, of course, followed by Prime Cuts and Omaha Beef podcast on Thursday night. We might do random live stream shows out of the bloom for your entertainment. But one thing we are doing this year that's going to be unique, especially if my boys are not playing and I have time to do it, we will have spaces, Twitter spaces this year, where if Matt is not at the arena and is actually at home, he can join me and a lot of NAL fans as we sit down and watch on YouTube an NAL game. We're going to call it Inside the Walls Spaces. It's going to be unique. It's going to be entertaining. And also, the reason why I'm bringing that is because we're doing it on for the Shark Show for a lot of the Shark games on road games as well. So that's going to be in the future for what's coming. Also, the format of the show. Every episode, we're going to have 30 minutes that we're going to break down certain games, because not every week there's a full slate. If you look at the schedule, there's a maximum of maybe 3 games a week for how the schedule is set up for most of the game. But we're going the first 30 minutes, going to break down the action of the previous week, talk about what we saw, what's something we enjoyed. Then the next 30 minutes, we'll be interviewing players, coaches, associates around the league and the National Arena League. Probably something to give you more how can I say this? Get you more personal to the league itself with the players and so forth.
Yeah, it's going to be very similar to what we already do on Prime Cuts, where we kind of get into the weeds with some of these guys and kind of let you guys know who these players are for the Omaha Beef. But we want to do that with a lot of the players throughout the league and the coaches as well. So, yeah, we've got some connections throughout the league, and we want to get those guys the spotlight that they deserve.
Yeah, and one thing I want to tell people is what we did last year and 2 years ago. We do not report on rumors. We report on facts. We get connections to multiple people before we report on stuff. So if you hear a rumor of players signing or you hear a coaching change, we won't report until we get clarification from multiple sources. That's how we are. And that's our motto here in Inside the Walls and Inside the Walls Network. We report on facts, not rumors. But to wrap up the show, next week big show Thursday noon Eastern on YouTube TV. I wish it was on YouTube TV, but on our YouTube page, and also on other accounts that are associated with Inside the Walls. We will break down at the whole entire league, hopefully with a special commissioner of the National Arena League next week. But keep an eye on it. Keep an update. We'll give you more information as it comes. But Inside the Walls podcast will be live every Wednesday. Not live, but will be pre-recorded every Thursday, noon Eastern, on Inside the Walls Network. Also, Prime Cuts of Omaha Beef with James Who you say you have this on show tonight?
Running back Jalen Singleton tonight.
Jalen Singleton.
8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Okay. So I have one quick question for you. Before we wrap this up, we've got a couple of minutes left. Preseason is past. We saw you watched my social media about what happened to my favorite college organization. But I guarantee a lot of people are watching the current NFL playoffs and seeing a lot of blowouts. What is a better system? A selection committee or results on the field? Because apparently right now in our sport, especially in the major two, college football and the NFL, it doesn't matter. Everyone's getting blown out in the first round from some odd reason. What's your opinion about what's going on in professional sports right now with the postseason?
I could talk ad nauseum about how I feel about the changes of college football. But you know,
a different podcast.
that's a whole different podcast for a whole different network on a whole different night. But I mean, I do think in the long run, you say what you will about the ACC and the quality of play in the ACC, whatever, right? People say, oh, they didn't deserve it. Florida State was undefeated. They were, and you and I've talked about this before. I felt like Florida State got snubbed, but like,
what did I tell you earlier before it all happened?
Yeah, you 100% said they were going to get snubbed.
I said they were going to get snubbed because of why. I told you that Nick Saban was going to retire. I had text messages to prove that. And guess what happened?
Yes. So there is speculation that people may or may not have known.
Conspiracy.
We don't report on rumors. So
I do know one fact, that Mike Norvell was Alabama's #1 choice, and Mike Norvell got paid in Florida State. So you stole our playoff spot. You're not going to steal our coach.
There you go. Yeah. It sounds like Florida State's going to end up in the Big Ten, which is just weird in and of itself. Like,
hey, I want my locked division rival to be Iowa. Let's go.
Can I come to Tallahassee? That would be amazing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that'd be great. No, but I mean, I think that the 12-team playoff is going to help next season. But you look at it and you compare the two things, right? Like, it should have been the best 4 teams on the field record-wise. Say what you want about, Florida went out and got beat by Georgia by 100 million points. They also had 25 guys that sat out of the game and didn't play.
We had 23 scholarship players playing.
Right.
Out of 85.
Right. And why would those guys play if they didn't need to? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean anything. I think the sad thing that's happening now is that college football is becoming a professional sport. And what you're seeing clearly with the NIL deals and the portal is basically free agency for college football. Who has the most money to pay these 18 to 22-year-old kids, which is what they are, to come and play for their college. And then when they don't get what they want, then they can turn around and leave and go do whatever they want. And there's arguments up the wazoo about all that. But
true.
Without regulation, there's got to be a way to figure out a thing so we don't have kids transferring 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
You know who'd be a good commissioner of college football?
Nick Saban. Yeah.
But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, but the NFL playoffs are going on right now, and we got some blowouts. Your Packers, holy crap!
That was insane. I couldn't believe it. But I've been saying all season that Jordan Love was going to be great, and
also C.J. Stroud, he's him. He's going to be a problem. He's going to win a Super Bowl in Houston one year. He's that. You're going to have a lot of big time stars go to Houston now just to play with him now. And Joe Flacco came to reality, thank God. Just took him 6 weeks too late to do so. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, around 30 minutes, we're going to be out here. So we're wrapping up the show. Be safe wherever you're at in the United States. It's very cold. If you're outside the United States watching the show, thank you. Please like and subscribe. Click the bell. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at NWallsPod, at NWalls Network. And what's yours?
Yeah, we've got for the Prime Cuts, we've got the PRM Cuts Pod on Twitter, and then also at the Omaha Beef on Twitter.
See, very simple, not that bad. But also, I want to make a little bit of a pre-announcement. I know he doesn't know what's coming. But on January 27th, you might get a special live stream on Inside the Walls podcast, because me and Matt will be in Tampa for.
So, what do you guys want to talk about?
For the Royal Rumble. So we'll be good there. Just a quick 5-10 minutes, just hanging out, maybe exchanging some gifts from Sharks to Omaha to give you guys some extra content. So it's because of the season. So we'll be down in Tampa for you're going down there for 2 events. We're trying to get the 2 events, but tickets are pretty hard for the second one on Monday night. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's Matt. I'm Jim. This has been episode 130 of Inside the Walls podcast. We'll see you next Thursday for a coach, probably with the commissioner of the NAL. Stick around. We'll be back next week here on Inside the Walls podcast on NWalls Network.